An elderly man sat in a chair while the tattoo artist worked his magic. He looked at the woman sitting in a chair nearby, the woman who had been keeping her promise to heal his heart for the past 50 years. This tattoo was supposed to be only the second and last in his life, and it was intended for her. He thought about the events of half a century ago that led him to this chair. John Harkness was damn good at his job. He was an excellent mechanic in civilian life and also successful in killing enemies as a combat marine. He was one of the few reservists who voluntarily went to Vietnam, considering it wrong to shift the entire burden of the war on the shoulders of regular units. In those days, reserve units were not called up due to the large number of conscripts. He discussed his intentions with his wife Julie in March 1967. They were married for only 3 years and bought a small house in anticipation of having children. She worked as a paralegal for a local law firm, and they did a good job together. John knew that with her job and the money he would send home, they could easily cover all the bills. They also had emergency savings. Julie was crying, but she seemed to understand. John's sense of justice was unshakable. John was a big man, about 6'6" in tall, strong, and muscular. He had a well-deserved reputation as a pugnacious fellow, but marrying his high school sweetheart 2 years after enlisting in the reserves mellowed him out. He was still able and willing to fight if necessary, but he no longer started fights like he used to. They said goodbye and spent a passionate night before he left. "You must come back to me safe and sound," she said, "and don't even think about looking at other women. This is mine, only mine," she added. "Don't worry, honey," he said. "I will take care of myself, and you behave well while I'm gone. I know how these rich lawyers work." "Don't worry, honey," she said. "I promise to be good." Before leaving the States, John updated his will and arranged for a portion of his military salary to go towards paying his mortgage. That took up about half of the meager $240.60 he earned each month as an E4 with more than 4 years of service. He also agreed to transfer a quarter of the remaining money into their bank account so Julie could pay utilities. He didn't think he'd need much himself, and he knew he'd get hazard pay. However, he allowed himself to get a tattoo on his upper right arm, a knife with a ribbon on which was written "Death Before Dishonor." He also saw another tattoo that caught his attention, a rose with space for a name. He remembered his father's advice and did not do it, but still admired the art. Arriving in Vietnam, he was assigned to a regular Marine battalion and, as a corporal, made a fireteam commander. The sailors were initially suspicious of John as a reservist, but he won their respect after several battles. Unlike many other Marines, John refused to enter into intimate relationships with local girls, not only because he was happily married and took his vows seriously, but also because he feared what they might carry. "Come on, man, relax. This is fucking Vietnam," said Harker, a black corporal from the Bronx. John took out a photo of Julie and showed it to Harker. "Not with the one waiting for me at home," John said. "Man, she's a beautiful woman, but you know some other guy is already with her," Harker said. Jody is Army slang for guys who seduced military wives whose husbands were in the service. Jody was hated no less than Charlie, one of the enemy's nicknames. John shook his head. "No way. My Julie would never do that," he said. "Yes, of course," said Harker. "And I am the king of the Bronx, with a bridge for sale." John wrote to Julie at every opportunity and treasured her letters, sometimes rereading them several times. At first, letters arrived approximately once every 2 weeks. However, after a few months, they began to come less often. John didn't think much of it, given that their unit was constantly on the move, but he still found it strange that he heard from his parents more often than from her. One day, he received photos of Julie in a swimsuit he had never seen before and wondered who took them. He didn't dwell too much on it and continued to carry out his duties, believing that his wife was still faithful. At Christmas, he received a card and a letter from his parents, but nothing from Julie. Now he began to worry, but did not attach much importance to it. Vietnam is not the place for such worries. In mid-January 1968, his unit found itself near a city called Da Nang. According to rumors, Charlie was about to launch a major offensive for the Vietnamese Lunar New Year known as Tet. His Marines went about their business, and at the end of the month, all hell broke loose. John's position was attacked early in the morning, and they fought like mad. They managed to repel the attack, but most of John's team, including Harker, were killed in the brutal battle. John was also wounded. John and other wounded Marines were evacuated to the Naval Support Station Hospital in Da Nang and then transported to a military hospital in San Francisco. Fortunately, doctors were able to save his leg, but he faced a long period of treatment and rehabilitation. The bullet that pierced his side missed his vital organs. Nothing could be done about the ear other than bandage it, and the stitches on the cheek would leave a scar. The nurses believed that the scar would give John nobility, but he doubted it. However, his time on the field was over. A Marine officer came, gave him a Purple Heart, shook his hand, and told him he had been recommended for the Silver Star. He already had a Bronze Star with Combat V and a Navy Department Medal. To make matters worse, the only surviving member of his crew, a lanky Texan named Jennings, died from his wounds, which happened in about 30% of the battle wounds in those days. His parents met him in San Francisco soon after his arrival. John wondered why Julie wasn't there. Did she know he had returned to the States? His father, a Korean War veteran, looked him over and shook his head. "Damn, son," he said, laughing. "I thought I taught you how to dodge." His mother hugged him tightly, crying. "Where is Julie?" John asked. The parents looked at each other before answering him. "I honestly don't know, John," his father finally said. "We called home and even to her office. They kept saying she was missing for various reasons, and she never called back. I haven't seen her for several weeks. You know, I came in every weekend to tidy up the yard and visit her, but nothing." "Tell him, Bob," John's mother said. "Tell me what, Mom?" asked John. "What's happening?" "John, the last time I saw Julie was probably 2.5 months ago. I drove up to your house and saw some guy coming out of there. He got into one of those sports cars, I think it was a Corvette, and drove off like crazy. I saw Julie in the doorway in her robe, waving at him," he said. "She didn't say anything when I approached. I haven't seen her since then. I collected newspapers and mail when I stopped by. Sorry, son." John was devastated. He was sure that she would be faithful to him. Then he remembered what Harker had told him about Jody. Perhaps he was right. Now he understood why he had not heard from her. "Was it a blue Corvette?" asked John. Bob nodded. "Yes, I was," he said. "Why? Do you know who it belongs to?" "Yes," said John. "It belongs to Eric Swagman, a junior partner at the firm where she works. So she's not even home to pick up the mail." "Looks like it," Bob said. "I hope you don't mind, but I saw some utility and phone bills marked final notice, so I paid them. I thought you wouldn't want to come home and find you had no power or phone." "Thanks, Dad," John said. "I'll pay you back when I get home, I promise." "Don't worry about it, son," Bob said. "You just take care of yourself and get better. Don't worry about these things until you're ready. If you want, I will issue a power of attorney. If she doesn't pay her bills, there's no telling what else she's done. She may have already completely drained your accounts." John called the nurse over and asked about the military lawyer. Soon a naval lieutenant commander appeared and began to write down everything that John and his parents said. He took out several papers from his briefcase. "I'll get that paperwork done for you, Corporal," he said. "They will give your parents special power of attorney to deal with the matters you mentioned. I recommend that you contact a family law attorney in your home state as soon as possible. I will prepare the documents, and we will meet here this afternoon for signing and notarization." "Thank you, sir," John said. After the lawyer left, Bob turned to his son. "As soon as we get home, John, I'll check the bank to find out what's going on. I still have the key to the house you gave me, so I'll stop by and see how things are going there. You know, old George Williams retired a couple of months ago and is now doing private investigations. I can talk to him and see what he can find out if you want," he said. I don't know if I can pay for a private investigator, Dad, John said. Bob shook his head. Don't worry, son, he said. George owes me several favors. Hell, we've worked together for the last 13 years. And if you want, I'll talk to our family lawyer. I think he's still practicing family law. By the way, Bob said, old Wilkins said that your place is still free in the workshop. He's been saving a quarter of your salary since you left. Wanted to use this as a return bonus. He said he would never let go of the best mechanic in the state. Just don't tell him I told you. John appreciated this. Wilkins was a kind and generous man, but he rarely showed this side of his character. He was honest and always treated customers well, but had a gruff demeanor that put most people off. That sounds good, Dad, John said, wiping away a tear running down his cheek. Damn woman, he thought. His parents hugged him. Everything will be fine, son, his mother said. We can handle it. A couple of hours later, the lawyer returned with a civil notary. After the documents were signed and certified, John's parents left, promising to call as soon as they found out anything. They thanked the nurse on the way out, taking the phone number for John's room. Your son is in good hands, the nurse said. He should be discharged in a couple of weeks, but he has a lot of physical therapy to do. The doctor is working on getting him placed at your local VA, and please call anytime. John was left alone with the ruins of his life. He was finally able to sleep, but when he dreamed, it wasn't about Julie. He dreamed of 4 Marines from his fire team. In one of the dreams, John sat with them in the hut by the fire, chatting, as they often did in Vietnam. But there was something strange in their faces. They were disfigured. Still, John was glad to see them. I'm sorry I couldn't take you with me, John said. Harker smiled broadly, lit a cigarette, and shook his head. It's okay, Corporal, it's not your fault. We know you did your best, he said, taking a drag from his cigarette. Besides, where we are now, there's no Charlie. Jennings lit a Marlboro and nodded. Harker is right, he said. I'm just surprised any of us made it out of there. There's no doubt about it, said Johansson, a large blond man from Wisconsin. Damn, there was only, 10,000 of them against the 4 of us, added Trujillo, a 4th-generation Mexican from Colorado. I think we killed about 9,000 of them. The others laughed. Harker looked at John and his face became serious. You have another battle ahead of you, brother, and we all know that, don't we? The others nodded and hummed in agreement. You and I were talking about Jody. Yeah, I was just kidding at the time, but you need to fuck him. The others reacted like Marines, with growls that only other Marines could understand. Hey, Corporal, we may not be with you in person, but we are with you in spirit, Johansson said. Thanks, guys, John said. You are the best. That's for sure, Harker said with a big smile. See you. John woke up sweating. He knew it was just a dream, but it seemed so real, and he remembered it as if it had actually happened. He remembered what Harker had told him. Oh yes, someone will pay for this, and big time. But first he needed information, and he would soon have it. A couple of days later, John received a call from his father. There's bad news, John, Bob said. Julie withdrew all the money from your checking and savings account, leaving only $5 left. It looks like she withdrew $545 from her savings account 2 months ago. I have a bank statement here. Everything is done in cash. The only money that came in these 2 months was your military salary. According to the checkout and the cashier I spoke with, Julie Parrish came a couple of days after your payday and withdrew all but $5 to keep the account open. She didn't open another account at that bank, so I don't know what she did with the money. Okay, Dad, John said. You have power of attorney. Remove her name from the account. We don't have credit cards, so it's not a problem. I'll do it, son. I also stopped by home. It's a complete mess there. Food is rotting on the table, dishes are in the sink, and the house stinks. It looks like she took all her things except her wedding dress and our wedding album, he said. I found her wedding and engagement rings. She threw them into the trash can in the bathroom. Sorry. At least the house is still standing, John said. Yes, said Bob. Your mother is there now, cleaning and airing it out. The bed looks like it has been well used. The sheets are very dirty. If I were a gambling man, I would bet that Julie brought her lover here. What do you want to do about it? Get rid of it, John said. Take it apart and put it outside if you want. I'll sleep on a cot if I have to. Okay, Bob said. I'll take care of it. By the way, George agreed to take your case for free. He said there was nothing worse than stealing a military man's wife while he was fighting for his country. I also found an excellent lawyer who said he would do your divorce for free. He can't stand swagmen. George suggested, given the circumstances, that you change all the locks in your house. I'm inclined to agree. You do not mind? He asked. Yeah, sure, Dad. That sounds like a plan, John said. Okay, we'll be in touch. How are you? Asked Bob. I'm fine, Dad, really, John said. Who are you trying to convince, me or yourself? Asked Bob. John smiled. His father had always been a shrewd man. Dad, you lost people in battle, right? Of course, John knew this was a stupid question. As a newly commissioned second lieutenant, his father served as a platoon leader in the 1st Marine Regiment under Colonel Lewis B. Chesty Puller at the Battle of Chosin Reservoir in 1950. He knew everything about combat, sacrifice, and death. Yes, son, I did, Bob said. This may seem strange, Dad, but have you ever, had dreams where they talked to you? Asked John. Oh, yeah, at first almost every night, but over time they decreased, he said. Did you ever get over it? Asked John. You'll never fully get over this, John. It's part of you. You try to make friends with it, learn to live with it, otherwise it will eat you up, he said. The next 2 weeks passed quickly for John. He heard from his parents almost every day, who kept him updated on what was going on with Julie. Of course, he never heard anything from her. As it turns out, she moved in with Eric freaking Swagman and, worst of all, got pregnant by him. They drove different cars to work, but their relationship was an open secret to everyone in the office. The divorce papers were also progressing well. His lawyer, Mike McGregor, filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery and abandonment. He also filed a domestic violence suit against Eric and a lawsuit against the company where Julie worked, accusing them of failing to adhere to the company's strict moral code. Based on the audio recording obtained from George, he also considered filing a complaint against Swagman with the state bar and local law enforcement agencies. Mike didn't go into detail, but promised John that he would tell him everything when he left the hospital. Bob said Julie became furious when she tried to withdraw money from his military paycheck account and found out she no longer had access to it. She called John's parents and threw a fit, but they just sent her to her lover for money. She was also unhappy that her house keys no longer worked. It was too bad, they told her, since she decided not to live there anymore. John had a good laugh about it and decided to focus on his therapy, both physical and psychological. Physically, his wounds were healing well. Psychologically, however, he was on edge. Not only was he struggling with the loss of his Marines, but he was also heartbroken by the actions of his soon-to-be ex-wife. Over time, he learned to walk with the help of a crutch and a cane, and doctors finally removed his cast. He asked if he could drive a car, and the doctor said he could, as long as it was an automatic. As he was returned to his room in a wheelchair, he noticed one of the orderlies hanging up his uniform. It was freshly washed, but there was something unusual about it. All the shoulder straps had sergeant's stripes. The doctor entered the room and explained. "You've been promoted, Sergeant," he said, "and you are discharged. You still need to complete physical therapy, so we got you into a van near your home. I don't want you to put too much stress on your leg, at least not at first. Now, why don't you put on your uniform, and we'll take you to the break room." John looked and found a freshly laundered set of green uniforms in his closet. He noticed that she still had her corporal's stripes on, so he put it on. There is nothing better than putting on a uniform that has been starched so much that it can almost stand on its own. He noticed that someone had also starched his uniform cap, so he took it. He needed help with his boots, but the nurse provided the necessary assistance. They were polished to a shine, just the way he liked them. After putting his trousers into his boots, the nurse led him to his wheelchair, handed him a cane, and they set off. When they reached the break room, he was amazed. There were his parents, doctors, nurses, and orderlies who looked after him. Lt. Col. Arvin Johnson, his reserve battalion commander, was there in his uniform. He motioned for John to go ahead. The colonel began to lean over to greet John, but John surprised everyone by standing up with the help of his cane. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson smiled and shook John's hand. He then asked everyone to take their seats and took out a piece of paper. "Greetings to all who see these performances," he began to read. "Know that, with special confidence and trust in the fidelity and ability of John Harkness, I am appointing this Marine as a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps Reserves, effective such and such date in March 1968. He stopped, looking at John with pride. "And may God have mercy on your soul," he added, causing laughter. He called John's parents, who came forward. He gave John's mother one badge and gave another to his father. They beamed with pride as they removed the old stripes from his collar and attached new ones. "We have one more case today, Lt. Col. Johnson said. He took another sheet of paper and began to read. "The President of the United States is pleased to present the Silver Star to John Harkness, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps Reserve, for service as outlined in the following citation. For obvious courage and intrepidity in combat while serving as a fire team commander in the Republic of Vietnam. On January 30, 1968, then Corporal Harkness led his small group of Marines in combat against overwhelming enemy forces outside Da Nang. He ordered them to fix bayonets and stand to the death. Despite numerous wounds, he continued to fight the enemy, sometimes hand to hand. Although most of his command was wounded or killed, he continued the fight and his position was not overrun. He and his team of Marines inflicted numerous enemy casualties and contributed significantly to the successful defense of Da Nang. Sergeant Harkness's dedication to duty, courage under fire, outstanding leadership, and exemplary professionalism contributed directly to the success of this operation and was in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Marine Corps and the United States Naval Service." Lieutenant Colonel Johnson put down the citation, opened the small box, and attached the red, white, and blue medal to John's chest. He shook John's hand. "God bless you, son," he said, "and thank you for everything you did. Your experience there will greatly help in training our guys." John's mother hugged him with tears in her eyes, and Bob wiped a tear from his cheek. "I'm so proud of you, son," she said. "Me too," Bob said, shaking John's hand. After folding and packing all his belongings into a sea bag, John changed into his Class C uniform, short sleeve, khaki shirt, and green pants, since Marines were not allowed to wear green uniforms off base, and wheeled his wheelchair to the lounge where his parents were waiting for a taxi to take them to the airport. A few hours later, his parents brought him home. For John, it was no longer home, but simply a place to hang his hat. It stopped being home when Julie decided to cheat on him. Still, he enjoyed the privacy and silence that this house provided him. His parents stocked the refrigerator, so it was stocked with beer and snacks, and his mother prepared some of his favorite dishes, including her famous lasagna. He changed into jeans and a t-shirt, something he hadn't worn in over a year, and put all his things away. At the bottom of his sea bag was something he had almost forgotten about. He pulled it out and examined it closely, surprised that it had gotten through customs at all. It was a knife, a very large Bowie-style combat knife that he had found half buried in the ground while on patrol in Vietnam. He never used it, unsure whether it would hold up in battle, but considered it a good souvenir. The leather scabbard was also very worn, and had a symbol that looked like a winged creature holding a sword or knife embossed on it. Below, he could barely make out words that seemed to read, "March ou crève." He had no idea about the origin of the knife or its owner, but he still treasured it and promised himself to find out what these strange symbols and words meant. It was still quite early, so he called his lawyer and George and agreed to meet at his home later in the day to discuss everything they had. He rested for a while and decided to test his pride and enjoy his pickup truck. Luckily, it was still in the garage, and, as far as John could tell, was in working order. He checked all the fluids and started it to make sure it was still running. The oil looked fine, and all the other fluids were fine too. It took a little coaxing and a dose of starting fluid, but the truck finally started. He let it run for a while until it ran smoothly and decided to do another oil change and tune up in the next day or two. After looking around his property, he took a beer and sat down in a rocking chair. His leg hurt like hell, so he relaxed and turned on the TV for background. He didn't recognize many of the programs that were on, so he settled on a game show. He called Wilkins to tell him he was back. "You're finally back, boy," he barked. "When can you start work?" John told him about Julie and what the doctor said about physical therapy. "No problem, son. Take all the time you need and handle your business," Wilkins said. "It's normal for you to need time for court or to see a doctor. I'm just glad you came home. Hell, I don't think half of these guys know the difference between a brake pad and a carburetor sometimes. If you can stop by this week, I have something for you. A small return gift." "I'll do it, thanks," John said as he ended the call. Finally, Mike and George arrived, and he let them in, shook their hands, and offered them a beer. They kindly agreed and sat down in the living room. "Good to see you back, John," said George. "Your father told me about your reward. Congratulations, you deserve it. Anyway, let's get down to business. I have something for you that you need to listen to." He took out a small reel-to-reel tape recorder with a tape already installed. "Let me set this up for you," he said. "I've been keeping an eye on Julie and Eric this whole time. One evening, I followed them to a steakhouse on the edge of town and managed to get a seat directly across from them. I don't know if they noticed me, but they didn't notice the microphone in the plants that separated our booths. You'll hear a lot of background noise, waitresses and stuff, but you can clearly hear what they're saying." He turned on the tape and turned up the volume. "So, Julie, have you thought about my proposal?" said a male voice that John recognized as Eric. He could imagine the smug bastard smirking as he spoke. "I don't know if I can do this with John, Eric. It's bad enough that I cheated on him and am now pregnant with your child, but I just don't think I can sell him on the idea." "Come on, baby, if anyone can do it, it's you." "Damn, he's probably crying in his beer right now. I'm sure he's ready to do anything to bring you home," Eric said. "You don't know John well, Eric. His sense of ethics will never accept this. There is no way he will agree with this child and will not raise him. And he certainly won't share me with you," Julie said. "No, no, we won't let him touch you. Look, you know I'm not cut out to be a father. John will do a better job raising a child than I can. It's simple. Either he agrees, or we threaten him with divorce. We tell him we will take his house, half his income, demand alimony and child support. Don't worry, I already have the documents ready," he said. George stopped the tape. "So they actually think I'll let her stay with him and raise her illegitimate child for them?" asked John. "Are they crazy?" "That's not all," said George A., starting the tape again. "I don't know, Eric. John won't accept this," Julie said. "Come on, baby. You know he's so in love with you that he'd do anything," Eric said. "Don't tell me you still have feelings for him." "Well, I still love him," she said. "But not like before. Besides, you're much better in bed." John blushed when he heard this. So much gratitude for loving this two-faced bitch, he thought. "Also, I wouldn't leave you for Vietnam." "What kind of idiot does that?" said Eric. John wanted to hit the wall. "You're right, I guess," she said. "When he gets back, I'll talk to him, okay?" "Do it," Eric said. "Do you know when he'll be back?" "No, I haven't heard from him since at least January, and I haven't sent him anything since last year, like you said," she said. "You know, if he really wants to be stubborn, we have other ways of influencing him," he said. "Which?" asked Julie. "Well, you know how sometimes houses can catch fire and burn down for no reason, or how the brakes can suddenly fail," said Eric. "You're not going to hurt him, are you?" asked Julie. "I won't go for it." "Don't worry," he said. I know a lot of people who can help. Your hands will be completely clean. If anything happens to him, you will get everything and be free from him." "Well, I guess," Julie said, "but only as a last resort." "Right. Last resort option. We'll see what happens when he returns." George turned off the tape. "It sounds like a conspiracy to commit murder," John said. Both George and Mike agreed, as well as conspiracy to commit fraud and possibly conspiracy to commit theft, since Julie drained your bank accounts. So I filed the court papers on the way here and expedited the hearing. I also got a protective order keeping them at least 100 feet away from you, the house, and your parents," Mike said. "It turns out that I know the person who schedules the meetings. Tomorrow morning, I will give them the documents. I spoke with the district attorney, and he is preparing a criminal case against them. I also spoke with Lee Marcus, a senior partner at their firm. We've been friends for a long time, and he's outraged by their actions. I informed him of our intention to file a lawsuit against the firm and of conspiracy to commit criminal activity. By the time we're done, Swagman will be happy to avoid jail," Mike said. "You know, your father and I still have friends in the department, including the chief," George said. "I talked to a few of them, and they agreed to keep an eye on you." "Have questions?" asked George. "Yes," said John. "What do I ask for in a divorce?" Mike handed him a folder with documents. "Sorry, I forgot your dad acted on your behalf," Mike said. "Here are the documents. As I stated earlier, we are filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery and abandonment. Since she works and technically earns much more than you, there will be no alimony. Plus, you keep the house and everything in it, since she left it and refused to pay utilities. We also demand that she immediately return $7,100, representing half of your joint bills. Remember, she emptied both your bank accounts, current and savings, and she took all the money you deposited in the bank. We also demand that she return her rings and return to her maiden name. In short, she keeps her clothes and car. I asked Lee to keep her at work because she needed something to support her pregnancy. According to our estimates, Swagman's net worth is just under $1 million, so we're suing for $800,000. Between that, the court costs and attorney's fees for this and any criminal case, he would have to nearly go bankrupt. We also demand that the firm pay $2 million for refusing to adhere to its strict moral code," Mike said. "The firm will likely agree to about half that amount, but for them it's worth it to avoid negative publicity." "One last thing, John," Mike added. "Do you have a dress uniform?" "Yes," John replied. Mike nodded. "Okay," he said. "Take it to the dry cleaners and attach all your medals and ribbons. I want you to wear it in court when the hearing is scheduled. I want everyone to see who Julie and Eric betrayed. I have another surprise for them, but I'll keep it a secret for now if you don't mind." "No, I don't mind," John said. "I'll prepare the form and be ready. Just let me know when I need to be there." "Necessarily. Now, if you don't mind, I have meatloaf and apple pie waiting at my house." "John, why don't you get some rest?" Mike said. "I'll do that," John said. "Thought I'd go to the water hole for another beer and see if I'd see any of my old friends." "Just be careful, John," said George. "This area has gotten a little more dangerous since you've been here." "No more dangerous than Danang, I think," John said. George and Mike laughed. "Not really," said George, "but almost." After George and Mike left, John went to his bedroom and put on a different shirt. He thought about the knife and took it, hoping to meet a friend who was an expert on knives. He locked the house, walked to the garage, and started his pickup. "Damn, this feels good," he thought as the pickup came to life. He pulled out and headed to one of his old haunts, stopping for gas along the way. He parked in front of the bar as usual and looked around. George was right. This area had actually gotten a little more dangerous since he was last here. "Damn," he thought, "I've seen a lot worse." He entered and walked towards the bar through the smoke of cigarettes. He took the beer and looked around, trying to find familiar faces, but saw no one. This place, where regular guys like him used to stop and chat over beer, now looked like a meeting place for gangsters. He finished his beer and headed back to his pickup, passing an alley on the way to his car. He thought he heard a woman screaming for help in the alley, and he stopped to listen. He heard that scream again. "No, please, stop it. Don't do this," a woman's voice shouted. He heard the sounds of laughter and swearing. His eyes adjusted to the darkness, and he finally saw where the sounds were coming from. The young woman was surrounded by 5 or 6 skinny men. From where he stood, he could see that they were going to hurt her if no one stopped them. He reached the pickup truck and removed the knife, still in its leather sheath, from the glove compartment. He inserted it into the back of his belt and quietly crept up to the woman, leaving the cane in the car. He knew he needed both hands and didn't want the cane to hold him back. As he got closer, he saw one of the men grab the woman's dress and rip it in half, exposing her body as she screamed for them to stop. The moment has come to act. "Hey," he shouted, "leave the woman alone. Didn't you hear her? Did she tell you to stop?" The men stopped and stared at John, not knowing what to do with this crazy white guy with a scar on his face standing in their alley. One of the men approached him cautiously. "Or what?" he asked, taking out a switchblade and opening it, thinking that this would scare the white guy and he would run away. John smiled and chuckled. He reached back and pulled out his knife, causing the smaller man's eyes to widen in fear. "Do you want to play knife games?" asked John. The man twisted the knife and tried to move around John so that he was between him and his friends. John recognized this maneuver and counterattacked, preventing the man from carrying out his plan. The gangster rushed forward with a knife. John dodged the knife and grabbed the man's wrist. The man dropped the knife, screaming in pain, and John kneed him between his legs as hard as he could, sending him to the ground. The rest did not know what to do and began to slowly back away. They'd never seen a knife that big, and they'd never seen anyone deal with their friend like that, especially a white guy. Most of them left, but 2 stayed to meet John. Unfortunately, John did not notice or hear the man approaching him with a large piece of wood with a nail on one end. "Watch out from behind," the woman screamed. John turned around and suddenly saw stars as a tree hit him on the left side of his face. He fell in pain and expected another blow, but the man dropped his weapon and ran away as red and blue lights began to flash at the entrance to the alley. John sat down as the policeman approached him. "Damn, Harkness," he said. "Didn't George tell you this was a rough area?" "Yes," said John. "I guess I'm just too stubborn to listen." The policeman examined the scene and told his partner to call a couple of ambulances. He took 2 more pairs of handcuffs, walked over to the men lying on the ground and cuffed their hands behind their backs. He returned to John and noticed a knife lying next to him. "This is a knife," he said. "Where did you get this thing, John?" "Picked up in Vietnam," John said. "Give it here," said the officer. "Do you have a case for this?" John pulled out a leather sheath and handed it over. The officer examined them carefully. "Foreign Legion? Seriously?" he asked. "Marines," John said. "Just came back." "I know you were in the Marines, John. I'm talking about the markings on that scabbard. That mark means French Foreign Legion, and those words underneath it, it means march or die doesn't look like anything standard. I'm sure it belonged to a French soldier at one time." He returned the knife to its sheath and handed it back to John. "Better put this somewhere before some tough cop takes it from you. Maybe hang it in a frame or something," he said. John nodded. "Yes, I will," he said. The woman approached the officer. "Please don't arrest him, officer," she said. "This man saved my life. These men were going to hurt me." The officer looked at her torn dress. "It's okay, ma'am. He's free, but he'll need to see a doctor, and we'll need to get a statement from you," he said. "I'll take him to the in my car, officer, and give you my statement at the hospital." "Is that okay?" she asked. The cop thought for a minute and agreed. "Okay, miss," he said. "You can follow me to the hospital." He shouted to his partner, who ran up. Another police officer looked at the 3 handcuffed men and whistled. "Damn," he said. "Isn't this Juan Mendoza, the gang leader we heard about?" he asked, referring to the smaller man who attacked John first. The first cop nodded his head. Yes, that is right. And this guy killed all three of them? Asked the second cop. The first nodded his head again. Looks like it, he said. Damn it, the second cop said. By then, 2 ambulances had arrived and paramedics were loading up the gang members. The first cop helped John to his feet. What, you didn't have enough of all that crap in Vietnam? He asked, smiling. John laughed, even though it hurt. Apparently not, he said. All I wanted was to have a beer with my friends. Well, this young lady will take you to the Give me your keys. My partner will drive your truck home, and I'll pick it up after I'm done at the hospital, he said. He pointed his finger at John. And stay away from this place. I'm telling you, it's not what it used to be. All the guys hang out at the Rockwood on the other side of town now. Thank you, officer. I'll remember that, John said. He followed the young woman, who identified herself as Amelia Simmons, to her car, a small Dodge Dart. Aren't you the guy who got the Silver Star in Vietnam? She asked on the way to the hospital. Yes, he said. Do you know about this? Who doesn't know? It was all over the news today, she said. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be home with your wife or something? John couldn't help himself and began to cry quietly. He didn't know what was worse, Julie's cheating and scheming, or the fact that complete strangers seemed to care about him more than his so-called loving wife. Sorry, she said. I didn't mean to hurt you. What happened? John told her the short version about the end of his marriage, and she started crying. She parked at the entrance to the emergency room, found a parking spot, and hugged him. Poor you, she said. That fool doesn't deserve you. Hot tears flowed down her cheeks. John looked at her. Why are you crying? He asked. These men were going to attack me and maybe even kill me. But you intervened when you could have died. You don't even know me, but you were ready to give your life for me, she cried. I can never thank you enough for this. John hugged her. You don't owe me anything, he said. No, I owe you everything. I owe you my life. You were already in pain, but you put it aside for me. So I'll return the favor. No matter how long it takes, I'll mend your broken heart, she said. I promise no one will hurt you again. Not like her, she said. You don't even know me, he said. You didn't know me either, she countered. After tonight, I know everything I need to know. John Harkness, you are my champion, my knight in shining armor. I want to take care of you, hold you in my arms, and fill the emptiness in your heart. Please let me do this. John considered her words. He looked into her eyes and saw only love. There was no deception there. There was a beauty in her that he couldn't put into words. Maybe it was because of all the crap from Julie. In the back of his mind, he heard Harker's voice. Come on, Corporal. Sorry, Sergeant. He smiled, knowing that Amelia had no idea why. Okay, he said, kissing her lightly. She hugged him tightly. You won't regret it, John. I promise, she said. They went to the emergency room, and the officer waited while the doctor examined John and Amelia. He cleaned the wound on John's cheek while X-rays were taken. He examined the pictures and looked at John. The officer took Amelia's statement while the doctor examined John. You must have a jaw made of cast iron, he said. Amelia also turned out to be fine. John gave his statement about the events of the evening, and the officer seemed to accept it. John, said the officer, Amelia seems like a fine girl, but she had a hard time. Her parents died in a car accident several years ago. She has no family, and since then she has been struggling to make ends meet by working as a waitress. Her last boyfriend was a real creep. Amelia said he used and beat her. She got tired of it and left him, but now she is effectively homeless and has been living in her car for the last 3 days. I know you have your own problems and don't need that kind of baggage, but it would be great if you could help her somehow. Heck, maybe you both can help each other. Thank you, John said. Maybe you are right. John was stunned by the officer's words. Amelia didn't tell him anything about her problems, but here she was, comforting him. He felt something he hadn't felt for a long time. Love, maybe. Whatever it was definitely much better than what Julie was giving him. The officer handed him a business card. Call me if you need anything, he said before walking over to Amelia. Follow me to John's house. I need to pick up my partner anyway, he said. She thanked him, and they left the emergency room. They drove to John's house in silence. John had a lot of thoughts running through his head. His soon-to-be ex-wife had treated him like trash. His fellow Marines were dead, and here was Amelia. John didn't believe in coincidences, but he couldn't help but wonder. They were both in pain, but they each put their pain aside to help and comfort the other. They finally arrived at John's house, and he invited her in after the officers had left. It's okay, Amelia. I don't really bite, and it's a lot more comfortable here than in your car, he said. I don't want to impose, she said. John took one of her bags from the car. Nonsense, he said. It's not an imposition. I have a spare room, and it's a lot safer than sleeping in your car at the rest stop. Okay, she said. You're probably right. After Amelia's things were arranged in the guest room, John invited her into the living room and offered her a cup of coffee. She agreed and settled down on the couch while he made coffee for both of them. They swapped stories, John telling Amelia all about his marriage and his time in Vietnam. Amelia reciprocated by telling John her life story. John learned that her parents were hard-working people who struggled to make ends meet. They were living in an apartment when they died in a car accident, and Amelia ended up on the streets after selling everything she could. There was no inheritance, and the money that was there went to pay the last expenses of the parents. She lost her job as a secretary for a real estate agent who had moved elsewhere, and ended up working as a waitress at a small diner just down the alley where she was attacked, for tips and less than minimum wage. She didn't make much money, but she was finally able to rent an apartment with a friend. However, her friend got a job in another state and left. Amelia, unable to pay for the apartment on her own, ended up with a guy she had dated several times. Unfortunately, he wanted more than she was willing to give and became violent. After a couple of weeks, she left and went back to sleeping in her car, hoping to save enough to rent a room somewhere. Well, why don't you stay here? Asked John. I can't take advantage of your kindness like that, she said. I can't pay you anything, and it won't look good with your divorce and everything. No problem, John said. You can sleep in the second bedroom, maybe help me keep the house in order. As for my divorce, if anyone asks, I'll tell the truth. You were homeless, and I let you stay in exchange for help around the house. That sounds good, Amelia said. I hope you don't get tired of me. John laughed. No problem, he said. I hope you can look at that ugly face, he added, pointing to his cheek. She ran a couple of fingers over the scar and his left ear. I can handle it, she said. Besides, I think it makes you look manly, like someone who doesn't put up with any nonsense. He laughed. Flattery will get you far, he said. Listen, it's probably going to be a busy place for a couple of days. Julie and her lover are getting papers tomorrow morning, so I expect the phone to start ringing a little after 9 a.m. I also have a few things to do. Want to join in? Of course, she said. Sounds like fun. I have a couple days off. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted and my leg is starting to hurt, so I'm going to bed, John said. I'll go with you if that's okay, she said, following him down the hallway. Do you mind if I sleep with you tonight? No sex, I just need someone to hold me. Of course, he said. I promise to be good. She smiled and went to the hallway bathroom to shower and change while John got ready for bed. He was already under the covers when she came in wearing a long t-shirt and panties. She lay down under the blanket and he instinctively hugged her. She placed one hand on his chest and rested her head on his shoulder. God, she felt so good, he thought. They fell asleep and woke up the next morning with John hugging Amelia, his hand on her bare breast. He jumped up, startling her. Sorry, he said. Amelia smiled. They showered and got ready for the day. Amelia prepared breakfast while John got dressed. At 9:20 a.m. the phone rang. What the hell is this scam, John? Julie screamed. I don't want a divorce. And what is this cheating and abandonment? I don't care what you want now, Julie, John said. You left the house, refused to pay the utilities, stole thousands of dollars from bills, slept with Eric Swagman, moved in with him, and now you're pregnant with either his child or someone else. Does that explain it all? I didn't know you were back, John, or I would have come to you, she said. Bullshit, bitch. It was all over the news. Hell, people who don't even know me welcomed me home. But not you. No, you're too busy cheating with your boyfriend to care about your husband, he said. You don't understand, John. I still love you, she cried. No, bitch, you don't understand. I haven't heard from you since last year. I found out about all this when my parents came to see me in the hospital after I was shot. You didn't even bother to send me a card. How can you say you love me when you have this bastard? But I love you, John, she said. No, you don't, bitch, he said. What did you tell him when they discussed me raising your bastard? John, how do you know what I said? She asked, crying. He had never spoken to her like that before. And you really mean it? Just sign the damn papers and get it over with. We're done. We're through this, John said. And I'll drag your boyfriend along with you. Suddenly, Eric picked up the phone. Listen, asshole, I'll bury you, he said. I don't think so, moron. Real men, much tougher than you, tried, and now they're fertilizing the earth. You want to compete with me, buddy? I'll bury you, and you'll be begging for mercy. Look at these papers. There's a lien order for you and Julie. I heard you planning to set my house on fire and sabotage my truck. I promise you, asshole, if you come anywhere near my house, you'll get it right in the ass. When I'm done with you, you'll be glad you don't end up in it. Prison, John said. We'll see, Eric said. Julie picked up the phone again. John, please, let's talk about this. There's no need for a divorce. Eric and I have a proposal for you, she said. If you want to talk to my lawyer, John said. And here's a proposal for you. Get to hell and die. John hung up and punched the wall. Damn her, he shouted. Amelia walked up to him and hugged him. It's okay, John. She deserved it. They both deserve it. Let the lawyer take your case. That's what he gets the money for. Calm down, John. Please, she said. How can she say she loves me after everything she's done? Asked John. I don't know, John, she said. It's obvious she's out of her mind. Come on, you said we had things to do. Let's get out of here and take care of them, okay? Okay. You're right, he said. What's on our list for today? She asked. I need to visit my civilian boss, get my dress uniform dry cleaned, and have medals pinned on it, then buy parts and service the truck, he said. Well, let's get started, she said. We have a lot to do today. But first I'll call my lawyer, he said. Amelia agreed and John called. He told Mike about the call from Julie. Yes, I thought she would faint, he said. And Swagman looked like he was about to hit something. I'll be interested to see what they come up with. By the way, I talked to Lee, and he said he had a meeting with the senior partners and the board of directors this afternoon. And make sure that your dress uniform is ready because we have a trial next Friday. Great. Thanks, Mike, John said. I'm dropping them off today. I'll call you if I hear anything. They left the house and turned in John's uniform along with his medals, with instructions for cleaning and attaching the medals. The owner was an old military man who served in World War II and knew how to do it right. Then they went to old Wilkins. Hey, boss, John said as he and Amelia entered. Wilkins looked up from the pile of papers on his desk. Hello, the devil himself, he said. Damn it, I need a damn secretary. I don't have time for all this paper crap. I have cars to fix. John looked at Amelia. Seriously, he asked. Do you really want to hire a secretary? Hell yes, Wilkins said. Look at all this. Plus, I have to answer phones and deal with customers at the counter. I know someone who was a secretary and probably needs a better job. Interested? Asked John. Hell yes, he said. John took Amelia's hand. Let me introduce you to my new friend, boss. This is Amelia Simmons, and she was the secretary, he said. Wilkins looked at her. Think you can handle all of this, young lady? He asked. Amelia nodded. Easy. she said. I can type 50 words per minute, sort documents, take shorthand, and work with customers. I can even operate the cash register at the counter. Wilkins thought for a minute and nodded. Are you working on it now? He asked. Yes, I'm a waitress now, but I don't make much money, she said. Here's what I'll offer you, young lady, he said. Give your boss 2 weeks' notice, then come work for me. Since you're John's friend, I'll start at $125 a week. Is that okay? Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, she said, smiling. Do you know anything about cars? He asked. Not as much as you, but my father taught me a lot, she said. This is even better, Wilkins said. Oh, John, I have something for you. He took out an envelope and handed it to John. Call it a coming home bonus if you want. John opened the envelope and saw a check for $2,340. He shook Wilkins' hand. Thanks, boss. It means a lot to me, he said. Well, you deserve it in my eyes, he said. Deal with your cheating wife and then go back to work, okay? It will be done, boss, John said. Wilkins waved them out. You guys go, okay? Wilkins said. They both shook hands with the old man and left. Wow, $125 a week, Amelia said. I've never earned so much. Thanks again, John. You're welcome, he said. You know, that's almost twice what I make as a sergeant in the Corps. It can't be, said Amelia. Yes, John said. Do you really know anything about cars? Yes, said Amelia. We didn't have a lot of money, so Dad did most of the fixing himself. He taught me how to tune a car, change belts and tires, and change the oil. Don't tell old Wilkins that. He'll put you under the hood of his car, John said. Amelia laughed. I could use a little lube under my nails. You take everything you need to set it up, and I'll show you, she said. John smiled. Damn it, girl, he said. I think I'm in love. Amelia giggled and kissed his cheek. Me too, she said. They stopped at John's bank, and he deposited the check, putting aside 10% for savings, as he always did. He left $100 in cash and ordered new checks without Julie's name. They then went to the auto parts store and got everything John needed for the truck. After they ate the hamburger, they went home. Home, John thought. With Amelia by my side, it really started to feel like home. He pulled the truck into the garage and got everything ready while Amelia went to change clothes. She returned wearing old, ratty jeans and a t-shirt. So what do you want to do? Asked John. Amelia grabbed the spark plugs and wires. I'll change the spark plugs and wires while you change the oil, she said. Okay, he said. You know how to show spark plug gaps. You're kidding, right? She asked. Without question, she took the necessary tools and got to work. John was amazed at how well she handled his tools. He took what he needed and started changing the oil. By the time he was finished, she had replaced the spark plugs and wires, as well as the rotor and distributor cap. He looked around and was really impressed. Everything looked perfect. However, looks can be deceiving, so he lowered the truck and got into the cab to start it. He turned the key and the truck hummed, sounding exactly the way he wanted it to. He pressed the gas a little and listened for any strange sounds. Satisfied, he turned off the engine and looked at Amelia, who now had oil stains on her hands and face. At that moment, she seemed more beautiful to him than Julie ever did. Well, she asked. John took her face in his dirty, oily hands and kissed her lips. Now I know for sure that I'm in love, he said. You're hired. She smiled, not seeming to care that her face was now even dirtier. He took the hand cleaner and offered it to her. There was a time when he would have done anything for Julie to share such moments with him, but she always found his work too dirty. After they cleaned up, Amelia cooked dinner, and they spent a quiet evening watching TV. John felt more content than he had in a long time, and even managed to spend the night without thinking about his soon-to-be ex-wife. The next few days passed in a blur. John picked up his uniform from the dry cleaners and spent hours removing threads, polishing the brass, boots, and cap visor. Amelia went to the diner where she worked and wrote in her resignation letter, and was told that she could consider herself fired from that day on. She left after being told to come back in a few days for her final paycheck. John and Amelia got to know each other better over these days and mutually agreed to wait to develop their relationship until the divorce was over. It was difficult for John since it had been a long time since he had been with a woman, but he was really falling in love with Amelia and felt that she cared for him too. Finally, the day of the court hearing arrived. John showered, shaved, and dressed after breakfast and walked into the living room where Amelia was waiting for him in a beautiful dress. "Wow," she said, looking at him in full dress uniform with medals. "You look like you want to be eaten." John smiled. "Thanks, but I feel like a damn Christmas tree," he said. "You look great too." When they reached the courthouse, they were met by a group of 14 uniformed Marines from John's unit, including Lieutenant Colonel Johnson and Sergeant Major Roberts. After all the introductions, they went inside. The Marines took up 2 rows of the courtroom as John walked to the table where Mike was waiting for him. John's parents were there too, sitting with the Marines. John looked at Julie and Eric at the other table. Julie's eyes widened as she saw the man she had betrayed. Eric grinned as he ran his hand over Julie's belly, which had grown larger due to her pregnancy. Julie hadn't noticed Amelia yet. The judge entered the courtroom and the bailiff ordered everyone to stand. After everyone sat down, the silver-haired judge looked at the Marines. "What business do you have in court today, gentlemen?" he asked. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson stood up. "Your Honor, my Marines and I are here to support our comrade, Sergeant Harkness, and, if necessary, to testify to his character," he said. The judge smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Colonel," he said. "I don't think it will be necessary, but I appreciate the gesture." The Marines said nothing, but looked at Julie and Swagman with contempt throughout the entire process, which went just as Mike had told John. The judge asked both of them a series of questions regarding the history of the marriage and the events leading up to John filing for divorce. Julie admitted that she left the house, left utility bills unpaid, and became pregnant by Swagman, who tried to force the judge to order child support for Julie. "Do you really expect me to order Mr. Harkness to pay child support for the child you fathered?" he asked. "Are you serious? Or are you just stupid?" Denied. And so it continued throughout the hearing, with the judge denying every motion or request from Swagman. At the end of the hearing, the judge ruled in John's favor, granting all of his demands, including a house, a permanent restraining order, and no child support. He also ordered Julie to immediately return half of all the money she had withdrawn from their joint account and to revert to her maiden name. There was no need to return the rings to her since she had already thrown them in the trash. Swagman objected, but the judge silenced him with his gavel. "As for you, Mr. Posse Swagman," he said, pointing with his gavel, "I am ordering an investigation into your role in all of this. At a minimum, I see a huge conflict of interest, and I understand that the district attorney is considering other charges, including conspiracy. I understand that a lawsuit has been filed against you for deprivation of love in this case. Believe me, your actions and answers to my questions today will greatly influence my decision in this case." He hit the table with a hammer. "Mr. Harkness's application for divorce is granted," he said. Swagman jumped out of his chair, furious. He rushed towards John, but was stopped by the bailiff. "You bastard," he shouted. "I'll throw you out on the street. I'll have your ex and any other woman you get involved with, and I'll bury you." "I don't think so," John said calmly. Swagman looked at John, then glanced at the other Marines in the room, who were looking at him and Julie with disdain. Julie hung her head in shame. Lee Marcus watched the hearing from the back of the courtroom and approached Swagman after his outburst. "You're fired," he said. "I'm also filing a complaint with the bar. Pack your things and leave my office by the end of the day." He looked at Julie as Swagman walked out of the courtroom cursing. "You're still working, Julie, at least until you have your baby and recover. We'll reconsider your workplace later." He turned to John and shook his hand. "Thank you for your service, Sergeant," he said. "On behalf of the partnership and our board of directors, Please accept our apologies for what you have experienced. He turned to Mike. Just so you know, given the circumstances and taking into account Mr. Petafens Harkness's service, the board finds your original proposal acceptable. We see no need to spend more money on the hearing. Please make an appointment with me next week to finalize the details. Mike nodded as he and Lee shook hands. Thanks, Lee. I'll call you on Monday, he said. Lee smiled. Okay. Now maybe I'll get some of my money back on golf, Lee said as he walked out. Amelia walked up to John and hugged him. John hugged her back and saw Julie looking at him through her tears as he broke the hug. John, I'm so sorry, she said. I really didn't mean to hurt you. Yes, well, you did, he replied. I just want to know one thing. Why? Julie shrugged. I don't know, she said. You weren't there. Eric was here. Maybe I started seeing dollars and got tired of being broke. One thing led to another, and well, you know the rest, I guess. What is this nonsense you were discussing? He asked. Eric had this crazy idea that you would be okay raising my baby as long as I slept with him, she said. I didn't like it, but the idea began to grow in me. Again, I'm sorry. John shook his head. I see that you quickly found a replacement for me, Julie said, looking at Amelia. Amelia stood in front of John and looked like she was ready to punch Julie across the room. I'm not here just to replace you, she said. I'm here to mend the heart of a good man, the heart that you broke, and I intend to spend the rest of my life doing that. Julie lowered her head before addressing them again. I think I deserve it, she said. John, do you think we can ever be friends? She asked. I don't know, Julie, he said. You hurt me badly. If it weren't for Amelia and my parents, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I didn't know, John. I'm sorry, I really am, Julie said, crying. She turned around and left the courtroom. John shook Mike's hand before leaving. By this time, the rest of the Marines and John's parents had gathered around them. Thank you for everything, Mike. I owe you more than you can imagine, he said. Mike waved his hand. Hey, that's what family and friends are for, right? He said. Besides, I've always wanted to knock that idiot out of his place. I'll contact you next week after talking to Lee. You've got a big payday coming up, you know. Now, why don't you two go and celebrate? You deserve it. After shaking hands with the Marines gathered around them, he gathered his things and left. Good job, Sergeant, said Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, shaking his hand. Other Marines also shook his hand and wished him luck. After they left, John's parents hugged him. We're so proud of you, son, his mother said. Who is this beautiful lady? She asked. John proudly introduced Amelia, and they hugged her like a long-lost daughter. You must bring her to dinner, John, said his mother. John smiled. I hope to do this very often from now on, he said. Julie's pregnancy didn't go well. After the hearing, she lost the child and was told that she could not have any more children. The company kept her at work, but forced her to sign an agreement that she would not enter into intimate relationships with any of the staff. She worked at the company for another 20 years and remained single during this time. She kept in touch with John and Amelia and sometimes looked after their children. One night, while driving home, her car was rammed by a large truck that ran a red light, killing Julie instantly. John, Amelia, and his parents attended the funeral. Eric Swagman lost almost all of his fortune fighting legal claims against him. He lost to John, then lost every appeal at the bar. The district attorney was still reviewing the case against him, but didn't think he had enough evidence to formally charge him. With no money, no job, and no prospects, he was confronted by a group of very angry masked men after leaving a bar one night. The next morning, he was found beaten. No one was arrested, and police considered it a robbery gone wrong. A few weeks later, his body was found hanging from a rope. John proposed to Amelia on the day he received the final divorce decree. She agreed, and they married, with local Marine reservists performing a traditional sword ceremony. They continued to work for old Wilkins, even though they didn't need to. Wilkins died of a heart attack in 1980, bequeathing the workshop to John. John remained in the reserves and retired as a staff sergeant in 1992, about a year after returning from Operation Desert Storm. He still saw his old Vietnam comrades in his dreams from time to time, but like his father, he learned to deal with it. He and Amelia continued to run the shop until their retirement in 2008, at which point their two sons took over the business. One night, about 10 years later, John and Amelia were walking along the sidewalk, as they often did, and something caught his attention. It was a drawing of a tattooed rose that he first saw in Vietnam, with a ribbon in the center for the name. On a whim, John took Amelia by the hand and entered the store. "What are you doing?" Amelia asked. John showed her the tattoo and told her how he almost got one with Julie's name in Vietnam. "Now I want your name here," he said, patting his chest, "right above my heart, where it belongs." "But why?" she asked. "You promised to heal my heart all those years ago," he said. "And you did. And now I want the whole world to know how much I love you." Amelia's eyes were shining with tears. "You don't have to do that," she said. "Oh, yes, definitely," John said. "I owe you everything." She sat down, knowing that once John made his decision, nothing could stop him. "Are you sure you want to do this, old man?" asked the artist. John took off his shirt. "Hell yes," he said. "Okay," said the artist. "Won't this hurt?" Amelia asked. "Yeah, like hell," John said. "But to me, it's worth it." Amelia smiled and wiped away her tears as she watched the artist paint her name onto his skin. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.